Greetings everyone, my name is Jack Nolly C. Panugan and I am going to report The Psychomotor Domain by Elizabeth Simpson, 1972. Okay, first things first is excuse me for the loud environment and I will just make my voice louder. Okay, what is the psychomotor domain? So, according to Elizabeth Simpson's taxonomy, the psychomotor domain is the development of motor skills and neuromuscular control. It refers to the intent physical movement of a student's response, which includes physical coordination, movements, reactions to environmental stimuli, and the use of motor skill body parts such as writing words, painting pictures, and many more. Okay, so it focuses towards the progression of mastery of a skill from observation to intervention. It is consisted of 7 different levels of skill development that varies from simple up to the complex task. So the first level is perception or also known as awareness. So it refers to sensory informations such as the things we see, hear, smell, and our response according into a particular situation. For example, such as backing away from a dangerous situation or deciding if a food is safe to eat according to how does it smells or according to its temperature. Okay, so the behavioral verbs for learning outcomes is chooses, describes, detects, differentiates, distinguishes, identifies, isolates, relates, and selects. So the second level is set. Set refers to the readiness to act that includes mental, physical, and emotional sets. So these 3 sets are dispositions that predetermine a person's response into a different situations, sometimes called as mindset. No? It is about knowing beforehand what to do in a given situation. For example, in the classroom, is that students already know what will happen if the teacher finishes that familiar countdown from 3 to 1. Or such as they know exactly what to do when asked to line up. Or such as students know how to follow procedures and rules of a particular game or sport. Okay, so in this level, an individual already knows what to do in a given situation, right? Okay, so its behavioral verbs for learning outcomes are begins, displays, explains, moves, proceeds, reacts, shows, states, and volunteers. Okay, so the third level is guided response. So, it describes an early stage of learning when complex tasks are first attempted or mimicked with the guidance of an expert. So, it commonly involves trial and error in the process of incremental improvement. For example, such as learning how to cook a meal by following a recipe book. Or for example, in the classroom, a student is performing a mathematical equation demonstrated by the teacher. Okay, so its behavioral verbs for learning outcomes are copies, traces, follows, reacts, reproduces, and responds. So the fourth level is mechanism. This is the intermediate stage in learning a complex skill. So at this level, learned responses have become habitual, and movements can be performed with some confidence and proficiency. So it is the ability to convert learned responses into habitual actions so that the movements can be performed with a medium level of proficiency and confidence. That's why it is called mechanism. Okay, so for example, a student uses existing knowledge of language to write an original essay, right? Okay, so its behavioral verbs for learning outcomes are assembles, calibrates, constructs, dismantles, displays, fastens, fixes, grinds, heats, manipulates, measures, mends, mixes, organizes, and sketches. The fifth level is complex overt response, or also known as the expert level. So, this is the expert level, which means that an individual is able to consistently perform a task and accurately predict the outcome. So, this is the skillful performance of motor acts that involves complex movement patterns. So, proficiency is indicated by quick, accurate, and highly coordinated performance, requiring a minimum of energy. So, this category includes performing without hesitation and automatic performance. For example, an individual maneuvers a car into a tight parallel parking spot, or displaying a competence while playing the piano. Okay. Um, its behavioral verbs for learning outcomes are assembles, builds, calibrates, constructs, dismantles, displays, fastens, fixes, grinds, hits, manipulates, measures, mends, mixes, organize, and sketches. So as we can all notice that it's just the same from the fourth level mechanism. So it's just the same, but but it needs adverbs or adjectives that indicates the performance, whether the performance is quicker, better, or more accurate. The sixth level is adaptation. So at this level, skills are well developed and the individual can modify movement patterns to fit special requirements. For example, an individual responds effectively to unexpected experiences. So, its behavioral verbs for learning outcomes are adapts, alters, changes, rearranges, reorganizes, revises, and varies. So, the seventh level, or also known as the last level, is origination. It is creating new movement patterns to fit a particular situation or specific problems. So, learning outcomes emphasizes creativity based on highly developed skills. For example, such as constructing a new theory, or developing a new and comprehensive training programming. Right? So, its behavioral verbs for learning outcomes are arranges, builds, combines, composes, constructs, creates, designs, initiates, makes, and originates. So that is the seven level of the psychomotor domain. Okay, moving on to measuring the acquisitions of motor and oral skills. Okay, so when it comes to the measurements of motor and oral skills, there are two types of approaches that a teacher can use in the classroom. First is the observation of a student's performance, and second is the evaluation of a student's products according to Gay 1990. So the first approach is observation of the student's performance. So from the word observation, which implies to a way of gathering data from the students according to their desired skill, with a presence of a teacher. For example, in physical education, the teacher can directly observe the performance of the learners on how they can dribble or shoot the ball. So through this, the teacher can keep a record of the student's performance and can provide a feedback based on the observation. So, according to Loisel and Discamps in 1992, there are two types of observation of a student's performance, which are holistic and the atomistic or analytic observation. Okay, so holistic observation is when a teacher provides a feedback or score based on a pre-established prototypes of how outstanding, average, or deficient the performance of a student. So it needs a rubrics or rating scales for the teacher to observe the performance of a student. So those students with those performance that closely matches to the ideal described by the teacher would receive a greater mark. Okay, so the second observation is atomistic or analytic observation. So this observation requires task analysis to be conducted on the student's performance in order to identify the major subtask involved. For example, in PE, the teacher has to identify movements necessary to perform the task when a student is dribbling the ball with the use of a checklist that shows the necessary movements to perform the task. So it starts with the teacher demonstrating It starts with the teacher demonstrating the positions, and then as the students dribbles the ball, the teacher will assign check marks to various subtasks. So, and after the performance, all check marks are considered, and that is where the assessment is conducted. Okay, so the second approach is evaluation of students' products. So this type of approach is another way for the teachers to measure or assess a student's mastery of a particular skill, such as giving project tasks on different learning areas. This is also a great method of assessing a student's progress in learning. For example, tasking a student to draw or create a model of the circulatory system, or such as construction paper products and many more. So this approach also uses the holistic and analytic principles on evaluating the student's products. The teacher will provide a prototype that represents different level of performance for a project, or conduct task analysis and assign scores by subtask, and the students are informed of the criteria and procedures for the assessment of their works. So that's all. Thank you.